Hi everyone, this is Zach, and tonight I want to be talking about the Pelagic, which is the second of the Skybound fleet. It is sort of the long-range, multi-tool, destroyer-sized vessel, the larger cousin of the Guarantee, and it was made in response to the primary shortcoming of the Guarantee, which is that you have to be in 1.4 kilometers range to make use of the 128 small grid railgun main battery. The Pelagic comes with a hangar supporting 8 separate fighters. It comes with a variety of missiles available to it, 9 in total, with 4 distinct types. And it also supports 21 large grid railguns as sort of that last resort to hold enemies at range. It comes with, I think, 30 large grid thrusters, so it is still quite quick. And you should be able to maintain the range that you want to maintain without much of an issue. Here we have a reasonably well-lit Pelagic. This is the exterior. We're using the same design philosophy that we established with the Guarantee, which is that mass weighs something and thrust generates force, and that force will collapse down on the rear of the ship. So we wind up with a building-like structure because that's sort of what this turns into. Additionally, we utilize a single primary direction of thrust because thrusters are expensive, and if you have the resources for more thrusters, you might just build an extra ship instead of adding more maneuverability to one ship. We'll start with the hangar. There is a rear engineering, but it's not done up. It's primarily for access for repairs. And so here we have the lower floor of the hangar, which we see a Kulak bomber sitting right here. Here is access for engineering. We won't really go into that, don't want to waste time. And we have a repair wall. You could have a tug or something with a projector and be pulling ships out of it, but this is primarily intended to fly damaged ships next to and repair them up. Let's head up to Hangar Control. Or actually, at least take a stop at the second floor here. There are 2 additional connectors here, one for something like a helper platform, like I have right here, and one for, I put a grind ship right here, and then an additional 4 for fighters. Airlock in the control room, narrow staircase, coffee, view into the hangars, hangar door controls, all close, top, bottom open, hangar door controls, all close, top, bottom open for their respective sides. More hangar controls plus vent control. And then up here, as described poorly by these signs, we have armory and lockers. The double arrows are supposed to signify that they're not immediately in the immediate vicinity, which they're not. I would call this more of a ready room, but we've got cryo on both sides. And then armory and lockers, bathrooms and shower. You know, just DLC blocks that are put in the right place. Moving on, for quick access, you could actually get into the cockpit right here. We're not going to do that. We'll start with the boring one first. That is the quarters, which is, hey, I need a place to store 14 or so crew members. Let's put some beds down, and that's what we've got. Next on the spectrum of boringness, we've got the med room, which does have a nice little hooded vent here to take use of the... Actually, they all do. Every room has its own pressure system here. We won't get into that. It's just how it should be. This is the med room with, again, just some DLC blocks, at least a little bit more tastefully arranged than just rows and rows of beds. And then we get to the galley. I do like designing galleys because it is a place where you kind of get to have a little bit of creativity. And this is the galley for the Pelagic. Next, we'll move into the airlocks, just to show you that these are the main airlocks here. This is on constant depressurize. And then we also have Whiplash 141's simple script, the hull integrity script, I have this running on the exterior in case you need to make repairs. You don't want to fly all the way into the bridge. You just kind of take a look at what blocks might be damaged using these monitors on the outside here. Alright. Forward engineering or weapons up here. We have hangar doors leading into these individual missile bays, which I just kind of have there for aesthetics, although you might find some real use to them. We've got 3 separate jump drives, a refinery and an assembler, and then there is access to the railguns up there, but similar to the very rear engineering, it is primarily for repair access. So that leaves us with a bridge, which is here. Of course, we have our mainframe on a rotor in small grid because the timer blocks, event controllers, turret controllers, programmable blocks, with some exceptions, programmable blocks, function the exact same on small grid, or at least on a subgrid, versus mounted on the vessel itself, or on the main grid. So we've got Whiplash 141 simple script, we've got M Masters automatic LCDs 2, we have an LAV25 projection here by Dylan H121. This is just personal taste. And yeah, so next we're going to hop into the cockpit, do a couple of weapons tests, and I'll see you there. Alright, in the cockpit, continuing with tradition, we've got our keybinds, user-friendly for the first-time user here, as well as some information on the missiles themselves. This does utilize several different kinds of missiles. First toolbar, main, connector, all thrust, hangar doors, stockpile on-off, airlock on-off. Sometimes you just want to run around the ship without doors closing all the time. 8 is depressurized, 9 is nuclear reactors. No need to go into any of that. 2 is the main weapons, where we have Whiplash 141's salvo script managing a default and a burst fire for the 21 railguns out front. Let's quickly kind of go over that. On the default, this is just a cyclic rate. It's going to fire 1 railgun and then a couple seconds later another railgun. If you had more, it would fire faster. I'm not going to fire more. Instead, I'm going to go over to the burst fire, which will fire the remaining 19 in a very fast sequence here. And then 4 and 5 manage this forward missile, which is large grid. I call it the Rhino missile. Not in love with the name, but that is what it is. So 4 turns on that merge block. Ooh, that looked sketchy. Sometimes, oh no, okay, those thrusters did produce. Sometimes when the game gets a little over-processed, I'm just going to make up that word, over-processed, the rear thrusters don't turn on, or they don't weld, and it results in something that's a little less fun. But that missile there is, that'll if the right hit, will break a Factorum ship in 2. So I don't typically use it for that, but I do use it for PvP. That's that. 8 is PDCs, weapons, power, thrust, default. 9 is neutrals on off, and then 6 I didn't cover. It's really a matter of taste here. I don't typically use it, but it does exist. It's a little tiny bit of extra protection for the welders on the front of the ship. Not very much extra protection, but it is there. You're free to use it if you like. So 3 is going to be our flight control. Dedicated off, dedicated on. I think this is either boost or the cruise on or off. That is the cruise on and off, boost on and off, maneuver on and off. That's easier to see on the dark side. And then 9 is the replacement for Zeroth Angel's cruise control script that I use on the guarantee. Nothing wrong with it, it's just that it's a little slow. Actually, every script that I've tried that does a flip and burn maneuver is a little slow. So what I have is an exhaust block mounted in the front, and this, I can just do this faster than any of the scripts that I've found do. I just identify the direction that I need to be turning in, need to be oriented in rather, and then turn the thrusters on and slow right down. That's it. That's all that's there for. If you have a script that can make that maneuver at that speed with that accuracy, let me know. I'd love to use it, because that's a little janky, but it does work. 4 is observation. 7 here on Toolbar 4 is the conning tower. Button 8 is the camera specifically on the conning tower, meaning that you can orient this and then fly with it. 9 is a camera mounted on the conning tower, but is not the turret itself, so it's always going to be flyable here. Toolbar 5, we get into missiles. Toolbar 6, also missiles. Toolbar 7, we have 6 remote control blocks behind the central 6 railguns. That allows us to kind of turn off all of the railguns, turn on the one that's behind, and then fire accurately out of that remote control block. That's what that's for. Alright, so 7, turn on, turn them all back on. 7 and 8 are turrets out in front. And then toolbar 8 is nothing. So back to 5 and 6. 5 and 6 are missiles. This is what I call the high-speed missile, or the HSM for short. I have 4 of them on either side of the 2 on either side of the ship, and I have the AI offensive blocks grouped so that I can toggle between targeting weapons, propulsion, or thrust kind of on the fly here. They slide right out the side, activate, and go forward, and they're pretty reasonably destructive and quite fast. They've got the small grid, large thrusters on the back, and they do work quite well. 6 is more situational. These are the end stage variants here, where we have the cluster bomb and core stage modules that I will weld up right here. So of note, there are 3 separate hydrogen tanks on the bottom one that's being welded up right now, and 5 on the top one. These do take some time. Additionally, they come out at an angle, meaning that you should be kind of as close to that 2.5 kilometer radius as possible. That's the radius at which the AI will activate. Otherwise, you risk these missiles kind of flying on the outside of that radius and never actually seeing your target. Alternatively, you could angle so that one set would, the other set though almost will be guaranteed not to. So 8 here is a timer block that manages connectors and a rotor, and that angles them out at about 35 degrees, which gives them just enough clearance to launch. So that's what I'm talking about. You can imagine a big circle in front of you, that if they miss that circle, they don't ever see the target, but if they intersect with that circle, then the AI can. This is the SES Hammer of War, a ship produced by my friend KZ Rampage, and it's actually the main reason that I built the Pelagic in the first place. At its thickest, it's actually got 8 blocks of heavy armor protecting it inside to out, and on the broadsides it's got 3 blocks throughout down this little channel. Real pain to deal with when you've got 128 small grid railguns as your main battery, which is otherwise very destructive, but not great against that much heavy armor. And dancing around that 1.4 kilometer range, in range of all of these artillery turrets, just use missiles, right? So that's what we're going to do. First, what we're going to do is angle outward the end stage missiles here. Very, very important step. Not only does it angle it outward so it leaves the bay, but it turns off the connector, which means that you won't have any sort of resistance as it leaves the stations, and it'll do so accurately. Then we'll throw out the HSMs, and last we will throw out the Rhino missile there. Let's have a look. HSMs, cluster bombs, Rhino, clusters, cluster, so first Rhino impacted right here, took out some thrusters and a decent bit of the armor itself. The series of clusters made it through into the hangar and peppered the outside hole. Some of them actually made it into this lower hangar here, but that Rhino is going to crack open the ship on the second try here. Hopefully those artillery turrets don't track it fast enough. does come in pretty quick. Here we're just going to kind of go over the how I would approach a Factorum Warship, or a more delicate target, and something that has a variety of heavy armor blocks. The Rhino has a tendency to damage or even outright destroy some of the prototype equipment that you're looking for. So what I like to do is just use a series of the HSMs, which are fast and reliable. They print quickly, and they can be They can be targeted per salvo to attack just the weapons, as I'm doing here. I'm just going to kind of speed through a few of these, get to the point where all the weapons are off, and fly up close and just inspect the damage. Alright, and with that, we have no more artillery turrets on that Factorum Warship. We're going to take the Kulak out here, make sure we don't get shot at, make sure it's safe to salvage, and that draws us to a close of this video. I hope that you've enjoyed your time with the Pelagic, and I hope you get a chance to check it out on the workshop. If you do, and you have an idea of how to improve something, or something doesn't work right for you, please let me know, either in the comments of this video or on the workshop itself. I'd like to continually iterate on the stuff that I build here. In fact, probably expect a Guarantee Mark II pretty soon, and a bit of a bigger ship that's going to be previewed here in just a second. So I hope to see you in the next video, and I hope you've enjoyed your time here. We'll see you soon.